Well, good morning. We're going to be sheltering in the Psalms this morning, and I thought I would read before we get started. So, Psalm 97 once again. The Lord reigns. Let the earth rejoice. Let the many coastlands be glad. Clouds and thick darkness are all around him. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. Fire goes before him and burns up his adversaries all around. His lightning lights up the world. The earth sees and trembles. The mountains melt like wax before the Lord of all the earth. The heavens proclaim his righteousness, and all the peoples see his glory. All worshippers of images are put to shame, who make their boast in worthless idols. Worship him, all you gods. Zion hears and is glad, and the daughters of Judah rejoice, because of your judgments, O Lord. For you, O Lord, are most high over all the earth. You are exalted far above all gods. O you who love the Lord, hate evil. He preserves the lives of his saints. He delivers them from the hand of the wicked. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the upright in heart. Rejoice in the Lord, O you righteous, and give thanks to his holy name. That's Psalm 97. And there's really just 4 commands in it. And so it's rather easy then to apply this psalm out. But it may take some nuancing. Just so you know, I did make this available on the website. So if you go to the church website, you'll be able to see this. I know I talked yesterday about the chiasm that was there and how it works together and that kind of a thing. So you can go see that there. I've highlighted each section differently so that you can see which is easily related. I've got some words that are related or repeated and those kinds of things, just to give you an idea of what it looks like when I work out the details of the psalm so that I can understand it better. But really, there's 4 commands, and so I'll just go through them one by one. The first command is this: worship, in verse 7. The command actually isn't to you. It isn't to me. It says, worship all you gods. And the word is Elohim. The word is the word for the God of the Bible, as well as foreign gods, other gods, different gods. And it's translated gods every time that it's translated. One time it's goddess, because it's associated with a female god. But other than that, it's always translated by God. There are other beings that are considered Elohim. And I know in America that seems a little weird. I don't know about you, but I was taught when I was growing up that there's only one true God and all the other gods are fake. Well, that's not true. There are Elohim. There are gods that are out there. And I'll give you a couple of resources right now to look those up. Michael Heisler, he puts out a book called Supernatural, or that's a popular version, or there's one little more meat in it and a lot of footnotes, and it's called The Unseen Realm. And in there he develops a biblical worldview based on the supernatural, or the spiritual reality that is there of cherubim, Elohim, angels, messengers, all of those kinds of things. The Bible Project took his work and they made several videos. I think there's about 7 videos, and they're called Spiritual Beings. And it starts with that, and it goes into Elohim, the divine council, and even talks about Satan and some other ones. So you can go to the Bible Project on the internet and you can watch these 7 videos. It's probably the easiest way to get involved with this understanding, or you can read one of his 2 books. But basically, this is what it's saying. There is for lack of a better analogy right now, a Greek pantheon kind of gods, a hierarchy, a council, if you were, of gods. But they are created beings. They're different than you and me in that they are spiritual beings, but they are created beings. Yahweh is uncreated, and he sits above them in the divine council and is able to pass judgment on them. And one of the things that is commanded of them is that they would worship Yahweh. They are to worship Yahweh. Hebrews 1:6 points this out, that they are commanded by God to even worship the Son. And so they are commanded to worship Yahweh. And one of the things that I would point out about that is this. They are associated with idols. They are associated with images. They are associated with things that we would worship that are not Yahweh. And what this command is kind of nuancing or pulling out are those things that you would follow, those images, those idols, those things that you would find satisfaction or love or have affection for that are different than God are supposed to be serving God. They are supposed to serve Yahweh. They are supposed to bring you to the place where you see Yahweh and rejoice in him. Now, you may not know how to do that, right? If we put this in real practical terms, there are people that are addicted to pornography or alcohol or drugs or fame or riches or authority, or you can name the vice that you might have. Well, underneath the vice, the desire and the pursuit of whatever that desire is supposed to worship Yahweh. You may not know how to do that, right? If you are an alcoholic or you've been addicted to drugs, you may not know how to take that desire that draws you towards drugs or alcohol or pornography or fame or riches or authority. You may not know how to satisfy that desire in a godly way, but there is a way. All the gods, all these things that satisfy your desires that are different than Yahweh are to worship Yahweh. They're to be brought to Yahweh. And guess what? When they're brought to Yahweh, they will satisfy better and eternally. And unsinfully, you won't have to be guilty for what it is that you are doing. And so find that way of satisfying that desire to glorify Yahweh. The second command is this: hate evil. That's in verse 10. Hate evil, and it's put to all you who love Yahweh, all you who love the Lord. And evil is the idea of bad or inferior. It's associated with the wicked, those who are guilty or transgressing. It's also associated with the adversary, the enemy, somebody at enmity. What's interesting about this word is sometimes translated concubine or second wife. And it's this enmity that goes on, this rivalry that would go on if you had multiple wives. And so you can kind of see the nuance of what the psalmist is drawing out. Anything that is second, that is at rivalry with Yahweh, is evil. It's of the wicked. It is something that you need to hate and despise and throw away. Anything that diminishes your affection for Yahweh, your devotion to Yahweh, anything that strips that away is evil. And we ought to hate it. We ought to hate being drawn that way. We ought to hate being moved away from Yahweh. Our affections should be so clearly set on Yahweh that there's nothing that can draw us away from that. Sorry, just clearing my throat this morning. And so those who follow other gods, or those that would bring you to worship idols, or anything that takes you away, that is something you need to learn to hate. You need to hate the idea of being moved from your affection to Yahweh. And it's easy to see how you might associate that. Anything that would draw you away from the the love of your wife, anything that would take you away from the love of your husband, and set your affections on something else other than them, that is something that we would hate in a marriage relationship, and that is the same kind of thing that we should do with our affections to Yahweh. So learn to hate evil. Hate those things that diminish your affections for Yahweh. And then the third one, and I would say in that, there's a comfort in this. There's a comfort in this because he says he preserves the souls of his saints. That's the life. It's the nephesh. It's the internal being of his saints. And the Lord delivers them from the hand of the wicked. So when the other gods are trying to drag you away, he will preserve your soul. He will keep you with your affections towards him. When evil people are trying to take you away, he'll deliver you from the hand of the wicked. And so when the wicked and these other gods are tempting you, he preserves you, he delivers you. And that is a promise that he makes. When you decide to hate evil and love Yahweh, he delivers and preserves you. That promise is then made. So the last two commands that are in this psalm are really one. Rejoice and give thanks, or joyfully thank the Lord would be the idea. We see this in verse 1 and in verse 12. And we're to rejoice in the sovereignty of the Lord. First, his position that ranks above all others. He is the creator. He's the one who made them. In his righteousness, anything that is pulling away from that, he will destroy in the fire that goes before him, and burning up the adversaries that would take you away from your affection. So rejoice in the Lord. One day, everything that tries to steal your affection will be gone. Everything that tries to take you away from him will be gone. So you then now learn to rejoice in Yahweh, giving thanks to him. Why? He preserves you. He delivers you. He has sown light and joy into your heart, and the light of righteousness, when you see his sovereignty and you love it and you have joy in it, that is all evidence of what he has sown in you. And if he's sown it in you, it's evidence that he has done that. It's evidence that he has saved you. And in that salvation, we can burst in thanksgiving and in gratitude, knowing that no other God can harm you, knowing that no other person can take you away from the love of the Lord, right? If he has set his affection on you, if he has sown his light and his joy into you, there is nothing that can take you away from that. So rejoice in his sovereignty. Rejoice in his decisions and decrees and the things that he has decided. And then rejoice that he has saved you and set you apart for those things. So rejoice this morning, saints. Rejoice that you hate evil. Rejoice that others are meant to be drawn into worship. And your rejoicing and thanksgiving will be worship unto this one who has saved your soul. Worship the Lord, saints. And tomorrow we'll pray through this psalm. And Sunday we'll finish up some of Romans 15. We won't finish Romans 15, but we'll tackle some more of those verses, starting at verse 8. So we'll see you Sunday. We'll pray tomorrow. Worship the Lord in thanksgiving today.